It's Father's Day, man. We sitting down with these amazing people that flew in to rock with us, man. Special Father's Day interview. We dropping a new album, Surfer Drown Volume 2. Big hit, been home for a month. We got over 80 songs, 2 new albums, plenty videos. This is the Father's Day cut, man. It's on.
You more than my son, now let's run it up. Grind it, grind it, grind it. I'm the general on the streets.
I'm the general on these beats.
So generally, it's in the DNA, we both are beasts. On the B, I got the P's of the trees, Bristol clean.
Hitboy new shit hit like Tank Davis, sparring in the ring. I've been grinding my whole life, I had to go and get it.
You know I'm with it, from the streets to the pen, I'm with the business. I'm the new black superhero, fuck crime, I'm going legal. Flood the system so lethal, Pharaoh, release my people.
I was telling somebody recently, I was like, music don't tell a story no more. Like, either you can't understand it, you don't know what you're talking about, but like, you told a story, felt passion.
That was my pops, and it's crazy because he came to me before he recorded his part. He was like, "Man, you think I should do this concept?" And he rapped it to me. And I'm like, "This is genius," you know what I mean? Just like coming from his perspective, as much as he had to deal with to even be saying that, it's just like that's a statement, you know what I mean?
But you had another artist on that song too, though. That was at the beginning.
Well,
was that that little boy at the beginning?
At the end.
At the end.
At the end.
You know, when you talk about what you want to be when you grow up.
That's the end. That's my son.
My grandson.
Yeah, that's my son.
Really?
When he said superstar, yeah, that's my son. So 3 generations on one song. I think that this might be the first time in hip hop that really ever happened.
Yeah, that's powerful. Can we like unpack that first song?
Grinding all
You
life.
don't hit him. We should have took an intermission in between the songs because that was a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a sequel to a song that we dropped right before he went back down in 2014. We had dropped some music, and that was one of the songs. It was called "Grinding My Whole Life," and it was a bunch of other artists that was signed to me at the time on the song, but we just kind of connected our story, and then we just wanted to bring him back with the part 2 and just continue to tell that story about, you know, he been grinding in his own way. I've been grinding in my own way, and you know, now we finally at this intersection where it's like we doing this shit together, and it's something we've been talking about for years.
It was really powerful when you said, I may misquote how you said it, but basically it's like, Dad, like put down and get, like, you don't gotta do that no more. I got you when you come home.
Yeah.
And that just really spoke to like your love for your father, where, you know, we find also, you know, because of media and society want us to stigmatize our family members who go to prison, and then we have all this like hurt and anger. But the thing that, you know, and Desmond talks about this all the time, is like, how do we see people with love when they come home so they don't go back, so they know they have something? And I just felt like I heard a lot of that love, like, Dad, I got you.
I mean, it's crazy because even though I mean, shit, bro. I mean, really, like, we went to prison originally when I was 3 years old. Been virtually locked up that whole time. You know, I'm 36 now. That's like a 33-year span. He only been out maybe 3 times for no longer than a year, less than a year most of the time. So, I mean, just like to be able to tell this story at this time is just insane.
Yeah.
I mean, Big, how I mean, what was going through your head? You know what I mean? Because I know, like, for instance, when I was locked up, you know, I'm getting ready to get out. I can't wait to get out. I'm gonna do this. I ain't never coming back to this. You know.
Yeah.
But then end up going back, right? What was that? And then how did you, you know, relate to your son? How did you feel? Do you feel like you let him down? You know.
I mean, yeah, I let everybody down. I let myself down. You feel me? Just chasing a dream out there in the game. Just, you know, just moving too fast. Just trying to get it overnight. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't working. And, you know, now I'm all in right now, sticking to the music, you feel me? I ain't fucking with the chickens and none of that, just maneuvering, hitting blocks and, you know, collecting chips and doing what we do.
You know, that was one of the things, you know, because one of the pieces in the song that had got me was when you was talking about when you was trying to, I think you was playing football.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And you wasn't there to lace your shoes up, right? And I remember, like, you know, in the times when I was incarcerated, you know, we out there on the yard, you know, chilling, talking it up, whatever. And, you know, we always, you know, you'll hear every time I die for mine, you know. Ain't nobody gonna mess with my shorty, ain't nobody gonna mess with my little princess or whatever. I'll die for it. And I always used to ponder in the back of my head, well, how much can you protect your kids? How much can you be if we in here, right? And how the desire to want to be with our kids, how can we apply that to not getting back caught up in this system, knowing how it is, or try to navigate it, because it's tricky as hell. You know, they set all kinds of traps up, you know, when you get out. It's there. It's just reality, whether it's on they put people on probation, and it ends up just being a setup just to put
Technical
you back
violations.
Tie your feet up.
over some BS or whatever. And so how you navigate that, knowing that deep down inside, and I think every last one of them brothers on the yard with me, they deep down inside, man, they love their shorties and want to be with their shorties, right? But how do we wrestle with that? And that's something that I've always just stayed in my mind.
I mean, me personally, it's in the person, man. They just got to fight for that bond. You know what I'm saying? Trying to reconnect and bridge that gap, regardless of what the baby mamas say or whatever, whoever say, the police say. You know, it's been several letters I done sent out, and it come back 2-3 weeks later, be like, damn, this nigga ain't responding to nothing. And now I see why 2-3 weeks later, my letters come back, you know, return to sender. They never even went out to prison. You know, some other letters just done never make it out, and, you know, same thing. I never get letters that he got, and, you know, whatsoever, just keep doing whatever. Got to pay $50 overnight, get on the phone just to use the phone, just to say, hi, what's up? You know, that's what it is.
It's crazy because I always still felt a bond, you know what I mean? Even though he been gone since I was basically 3, it's just like we always still had a rapport. We always still had that love. Always still like, and then, you know, I just heard stories about him, how much he was respected and revered, you know, when he was on the streets and shit. So it's just like, you know, it's somebody I still looked up to, even though he wasn't there in the flesh at the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you about that. Like so my first state job was working at a maximum security male prison at 19 years old. And I always tell folks, I worked in classification at that time. And, you know, I used to get it from the guards because I was too nice. I was too nice to the people that was incarcerated. I was just excited to have a job, first of all. I was excited just to be like, you know, it was my first like real estate job. And I had found out that my cousin was incarcerated there. And I didn't want to tell the prison because if they knew that he was there, if they knew that I was related, they would move him. And so that was my first time being able to see like kind of the environment, the conditions and things that happen inside the prison. And, you know, I saw where people had the support with it, bringing their kids and their families, but also waiting for the letters or the letters not getting out or people intercepting the letters. But I also saw like, you know, through that and through now the work that I'm doing, that the folks who had that engagement with their families had a higher success of staying home and engaging, like that support and stuff like that. Yeah. And so just hearing that, you know, that you try to keep that bond no matter what through the wire like that, that's powerful.
Definitely.
But how we change also the system, because the system is not, when you talk about the phone call, like right now, I know there's some laws that pass, I think in Connecticut, where you cannot charge the families because the families go to prison. They suffer with the loved one that's locked up because they're the ones that's getting the high phone calls that they got, you know, grandma and them sacrificing. Do we get food or do we just keep the line open so I get to collect call, or I got to make sure someone is taken care of? And so we see how like mass incarceration is affecting the whole community, you know, when one person gets locked up.
You know, what do you say, $50 for the call?
I mean, that's on the, you know, a line that's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, yeah, that's overnight. You just rent out somebody's phone, a real phone, without getting on the wall phone. I was on restriction anyway, so I had to, you know, wiggle like that. I had to pay somebody to use their phone or buy a phone or cash out, you know, say $3,000, $5,000 for a phone, you know, till the police take it. But at the same time, yeah, whatever I had to do, that's what we did. You know, I get on the phone and make music and send it to him. You know, that's how we came out. He put me on.
Oh, he was making music.
And shit, yeah.
Yeah, well, so that's why
so I got a volume 2 of my series I'm doing called Surf or Drown. My label is Surf Club, so Surf or Drown is a concept, but like, you know, I came up, I had a quick, like, not to say a quick come up, but like I went to a really high peak and then I had to come down off of that. And I really could have drowned, you know what I mean? But just like me having a background I got, having to deal with real shit, I was able to surf through that shit. So He actually sent me a rap from his prison cell that I used as the intro on my first Surfer Drown. Now he all over the second Surfer Drown, rapping on damn near every song. You know what I mean? So it's just wild how that shit manifested. Like I didn't even know that he would, that it would line up this way. I never could have planned it no better. It's just like this shit was like written already. You know what I mean?
That's what I wanted to ask. What was that point when y'all actually started? And that was that first Surfer Drown.
That's not when we started. That was just like the more recent stuff.
I'm talking about what was that point when y'all knew that, man, we're gonna make some music together?
Oh, that's been since way back.
It's always been like
that's
that.
Like early 2000s.
I just been saying like this the 10th or 20th time I told this nigga I'm finna come home, man. Because that's what they told me. You know what I'm saying? They're supposed to let me go 6 years ago. You know what I'm saying? They just violated and held me, just political prisoner type shit. So, but I got them lawsuit right now, some millions coming. So, but I've been telling them, I'm finna get out next month. Come and nothing happened. They deny it. Next year come like, man, I got it in 90 more days. I'm finna get out. So we always making music ready to go. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was so explosive when I get out.
He recorded like 80 songs and he only been out for a month.
I'm saying, y'all, so you just hit the ground running.
Catalog.
We already dropped like 6 videos directed by the homie Rise over here, man.
Yeah. Shout out to Rise.
Yeah.
So you guys now have an album that just dropped recently, right?
Surfer Drown 1 dropped in March, and then Surfer Drown 2 is dropping as a Father's Day release. It's gonna drop next Friday. So, you know what I mean? Just like that's my gift to the world on some like, for what I do.
Well, who you hope, like, again, I'm going back to like those words are powerful. You got a lot of conscience, especially in the second song, which was
Police.
Who you hope hear your music? Like when you was writing that music inside, I know you like, I just want anybody to listen at this point, but like now that you home, now that you in the studio, you just like recapping, like who you want to hear those words and that pain, that passion, all that. Cause I say I turn my pain into purpose. Like who you want to hear like your music?
Who I want to hear my music?
Who you want to hear it and like what you hope that folks get from?
I feel like everybody. I want the world to hear it. You know what I mean? It's like since we've been dropping these, we started dropping videos 12 days ago. We dropped like 5 or 6 videos already. And like the main thing I'm seeing, like from YouTube comments, IG, DMs, like people was like really like connecting this story beyond just the music. They like, yo, I lost my dad, 10 years ago. I wish I could have had some type of bond with him on this level, or, me and my dad, we not tight, and this shit makes me want to go get tight with my dad. Like we inspiring people beyond just we rapping, trying to look cool. Like we really saying some shit, and also it's just something that, we've been talking about doing.
Yeah. It's almost healing for some folks.
This is therapy for me, right? Personally, you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like even we only been like back, locked in for a month. I feel like my confidence is even, you know what I mean? That's something I feel like I always lacked because I had male figures, but I didn't have a dad, you know what I mean? So I feel like I lacked in, and just like even through my delivery and my music, like it's just like being received. Like, damn, okay, this is the hitboy really going crazy. And I don't know, my confidence just sparked, like it just hit that peak where I'm like, man, we got to do this shit right now. You know what I mean? And be the illest we could be.
I want to push a little bit, right? Because I don't know what I heard on Police. Man, I think that it was specific groups of people that you was talking to, right? And I know that we would hell yeah, we want the whole world to hear the music. We want the whole world to buy the music, right? But that message that you had seemed like it was like, even like to shorties growing up, because one of the pieces I took, it's easy to say, yeah, I want to be an athlete, I want to be a producer, I want to be a rapper or whatever, right? But you're saying that some of us need to think about how we get into some of these positions. You said we need to slide up in the Congress, DAs.
Just because in the pen, you see it all day, like with the Amigos, you know what I'm saying? They family, they make them get up in that, you know what I'm saying? When they come through, they look out for their peoples, you know what I'm saying? Whether it's cell phones or whether it's food or whatever, you know what I'm saying? But they get it, they got it lovely, you know what I'm saying? They might search their cell, they don't take it. You know what I'm saying? They show them love, but as opposed to us, they getting whacked all the way, full punishment. You know what I'm saying? It's just, we don't got none of our peoples in that field. It's like, it's rare. You know what I'm saying? You see a black, like, damn, my nigga, And I know I'm gonna get some action or something, and they bang. You know what I'm saying? They just been around them so long, and they, adapt their attitude like, fuckingnigga.com, like for real. And everybody got that attitude, from the whites to the Mexicans and the blacks.
You know, as we're dealing with, like, even we see police shootings, we've seen the George Floyd, and all, I mean, we can go down a whole list of names. And one of the things that, advocates, my org as well, what we talk about is that sometimes there's a feeling of hopelessness in our communities. Yeah. Like, man, this thing been since Rodney King, and, we've been just getting beat down, and it's like nothing's going to change. And we try to like counter that message, right? Because when you talk about, police chiefs, right, or sheriffs, in a lot of communities, those individuals are elected, right? And if the police do something wrong, and you talk about it, that even with the body cam on, we can still get away with this. The person that's in charge of prosecuting police is the DA. That's an elected position, right? The judges that we go in front of, right, in criminal court, they're elected positions. The attorney general, elected positions.
All up under the same.
And so what we're saying, so how we push back though, right, is why can't we put our people, why can't we put people that's about justice in those positions, and then talk about the power that our community actually have to do so? And it's not like a pipe dream. We're seeing it happen across the country, right? Whether it's in Florida, whether it's in Louisiana, in North Carolina, to where people who've been impacted by the system playing a key role in electing who was the sheriff, electing who was the state attorney or the DA or the prosecutor, electing judges, and even electing like attorney generals and stuff like that. And so I kind of hear some of that and thinking that we don't necessarily have to lose hope. And through like music such as yours, that we can actually give people hope and let them know, listen, the system is messed up. We know it. We know it's rigged against us, right? But there is an opportunity that we can infiltrate and we can slide in, right? Through, really just
that's what Big Hit was talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, man, they ain't taking advantage of them positions, man, because they open. They gave us a lot of positions open, but niggas is not trying to be no police, no officers, and they shying away from that, which is understandable, respectable. But but the ones that is going into it, they pressing a hard line. They got a different attitude. You know what I'm saying? They going in for a different angle.
It's a culture. It's almost hard. Like, I still hear sometimes little kids say, I want to be a police officer when I grow up and stuff like that. And we have, I have close friends. Matter of fact, one of the associate ministers at our church is a sheriff. And I was happy to see him in that position because I know he cares about his community. He ain't trying to do no wrong. And like, we do need more folks to be in those positions. But then right now with the climate, like, with the things that are happening with the police with our community, people are shying away because they don't want to be coined as those type of people. Mm-hmm. And so it's kind of hard. But we do, I believe that people from our community should be the people policing our community. And that's a problem when you have a police officer that lives in, I don't know, like, I'm not from California, but we're in LA right now, right? Mm-hmm. Having someone from, give me someone Beverly Hills that's policing over in Pasadena or whatever, like, but having, you got Leroy policing his community. Leroy grew up with your Uncle Bob or whatever. Mm-hmm. He ain't gonna be over here acting up because, the grandmamas grew up together and stuff. Right. So I thought it was powerful too, like about putting people in positions, and you just don't hear that in music no more. You don't hear that in rhymes. And so that was just really powerful. And I think there's opportunity for like, we want the world to hear everybody, but to really get a message out. And it's powerful for you to come home and take your lived experience and the things that that is happening. And even though you've been away, and bring that to the consciousness for our young people who need to hear this. And so they don't get caught up, right? And they could be more than just what they may see. So.
Well, no, I feel what Big talking about, because I remember when I was locked up, the person, actually every time I went to the hole, it wasn't one of the white officers that got me in the hole. It was a black officer that got me in the hole. Every time I got messed up in the joint. Part of the reason is because, we know what to expect from someone that probably hate me because of the color of my skin. So the white officers, we already, You know, we know what to expect from them. So we, you know, we act accordingly. We live one day at a time, right? And we get our routine and we know how we have to flip it. But when you run into the black officers, some of these black officers, man, they'll flip on you in a minute. You know, 1 minute they're down, and the next minute, you know, you in the hole getting gassed. You know, and so that brings up a lot of, you know, of like contradiction and reactions, and you know, it kind of confused me for a minute too, for you know, while I was locked up, but somehow or another, you know, I was able to really just power through that and understand, man, you know, there's good and bad on both sides. But where are those positions that we can't? So maybe everybody might not want to be a police, but we got brothers that are good lawyers, right? That lawyers can become state attorneys, lawyers can become judges, right? And we get them brothers that really believe in justice and been like maybe being our defense lawyers in some cases.
Sisters.
Or sisters,
Or
yeah.
sisters.
Or sisters. And we get them in those positions. At the end of the day, the judge make the final decision, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, and the DA is the only, or the prosecutor is the only one with the authority to decide whether or not they want to charge you, or what type of charges they could bring against you. So they could what they call that, they could reduce the charges. So your initial charge might be a felony possession of marijuana, right? And they could decide, you know what, we're gonna make it a misdemeanor, you know, and so that type of power is something that needs to be in the hands of people who believe in justice. That type of power needs to be in some of our people's hands, right? Who've gone through the process and gotten their law degrees and whatever. And the beautiful thing about it, the thing that get me hyped is that we got the power to put our people in power, right? And it's about how do we reinstill hope in people. You know, I think police is a good start. You know, I think it is a good start. You know, it brings up some painful moments, you know, about interacting with the police and police getting to beat you down and get away with it. You know, seemed like nobody cared, and this was even before cameras. All right, so
Yeah.
I started going into jail and prisons much earlier before these cameras came out and was catching everything. And so anytime I caught a beat, I remember I caught a vicious beat down, and I ain't had no say so in it, you know, and how they wrote it up. You know, I was like the menace to society, but it was nothing like that, right? And so that stuff brings up a lot of pain, and knowing that when you're feeling alone and feeling like nothing gonna change. But I know today that things can change and we can make a difference little by little.
Big hit.
Absolutely.
So you home now, and you got to like catch up to see like you're home, and you got the songs you was talking about, the stuff that happened inside prison, also in the streets. But if you was able to like make any changes to like the system, right? Because now like your platform, your son has created a journey to be able to give. He has a platform now. You have a platform, and people listen, right? And that's what I'm saying. It's powerful about you. The music you about to get out there. It's good to start connecting with folks. What is the type of change that you want to see with the system? One, what needs to happen to make sure that you don't, what we call recidivize, go back, like in other folks who's been impacted to go back? And what do we need to change, like in the actual, like the prison system?
Man, that's a vague question.
I know, I mean, it's a lot. It's a whole bunch.
Yeah.
But like the things that
we got time.
The things that you like, you was like, you know what, that irked you so bad that you was like, when I get out, man,
Oh yeah,
I'm gonna go tell somebody.
Man, yeah, it's a lot. I mean, I got shit from, you know, I still got smuggled like water out the sink that was just filthy, dirty. Like, you know what I'm saying? They had me in there with some broke sink and toilet and all this shit for months, and I just endured it. Like, fuck it, I'm gonna get out in a minute anyway. You know, without no power and all this shit, like a phone restriction and all, just extra out stuff, food, like commissary restriction, stuff I endured knowing that they was just violating my rights, stuff I knew I could beat, and I just couldn't present no evidence that I was already was guilty by, you know, just off the preponderance of the evidence. That's what they do, you know. And like you say, all of them is in it together. Like the judge is in it with the prosecutor, your lawyer is in it with they all took this oath and they all in it together. So, you know, like the fun of that private, you got their private oath and they public oath, and they both contradict with each other. So it's like they can't go against their own kind, so they wash you up under the rug anyway. So they let you get action on your appeal status. So that's why I had to wait so long to get out. The judge knew he was wrong when he sentenced me. You know, he knew he gave me the legal sentence, but I had to fight for my life, and I could have laid it down like the rest of these niggas. That's what they do. They get comfortable, like, fuck it, I only got 3 years left, but I'm still fighting. I still sent that paperwork in, and I ended up getting action, and kind of, you know, it all came out in the light. I was supposed to have been let go 6 years ago.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So
I wrote a story in my book. I wrote a story about that. When I was locked up, it was this jet that was no longer a jet. But every day I would see him in the yard, you know, either he in the weight pile or he playing ball. And for some strange reason, something happened to make him ask one of my homies to look into something about his case. And me and the cat working on this case, and come to find out, this dude been locked up for like over 12 years, something like that. And he shouldn't have never been locked up. The sentence was totally wrong. But when he came in, he quickly got, you know, acclimated to prison life. And all it was, I mean, if he's not in the weight pile or on the basketball court, they're on the bleachers making beats. And I mean, you walk in a law library, ain't nobody in there. Ain't nobody in there. And he wasted a lot of years of his life, all because when he got in, he did not work on his stuff. And people do lay down.
yeah, they get used to that lifestyle, man. They get, you know, a lot of my homies like, fuck it, my nigga, I'ma die in this motherfucker. Like, you know, say it like now, but I, you know, giving out a lot of inspiration just since I've been out. Like, it's like, man, you gave me inspiration. I'm going to the law library now, whatever. I'm like, just make them just put the paperwork in, because, you know, you got to be in it to win it. Like, it's like the lotto. You got to put it in, homie. So, you know, make them deny you. Make them create a situation. You know, they not even about if you guilty. They done fucked up so much and they violate their own rules and regulations. But they violations alone is a reversal. You know, they don't understand, like, man, I'm ass out pled guilty to, you know, all kind of charges, but still got action, you know.
So I mean, are you out now? You know, is there anything that's going through your mind, and what you're thinking about how you reach back, right, to some of the homies that is still locked up?
Yeah, no, I'm in contact every day. They tap in, you know what I'm saying, with homies in the pen, you know.
And how you doing it? Are you doing it with your music
I
too
got
as
them
well?
hooked up with lawyers and all kind of shit, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, we doing music. I got KK, you know, Career Criminal Entertainment, coming out with niggas that's locked up. We'd had the same dreams as I had, you know what I'm saying? Couldn't really make it happen. To dudes that was faking with me, a lot of dudes, you know, if it wasn't him, he was really the only one regulating the situation that knew I had talent and was pushing it. So other dudes didn't believe in me, like, man, you locked up, kill it, like, ain't nothing happening. But, you know, yeah, I'm still tapped in deep with everybody. I'm still regulating situations with dudes, with lawyers being the middleman, where I hooked up with niggas was on the yard with just, you know, had elbows and laid it down. Man, look into your case, locked them in with my lawyer, and now they got court dates and all that type of situation, yeah.
And this at San Quentin?
Nah, it's everywhere. It's in Centinela, shit, in Folsom. I mean, Soledad, all wherever my homies at. I got a lot of homies that's, you know, I've been hooking up. You know, they everywhere.
What aren't y'all doing a concert?
Not yet, but we are doing just a celebration for the release of Surfer John Volume 2, and it's a Juneteenth celebration too. Yeah, next Saturday the 17th.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean that's the same. Like, it's crazy because you pointed out the bar about me playing football. That same park is where I played football at as a kid. You know what I mean? So to go give back, we're gonna have free food. We're gonna, you know, give away shirts. We're gonna vibe with the people, and we're gonna shoot a video there too. So just like really giving back to that. You know, just my past and the place that I just feel connected to, you know what I mean, as far as on my part. And then it's like a welcome home for Big Hit too, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Talking about football, so I know y'all been making music for a while together.
Yeah.
And Pop's been gone. Pops, you home. While you was in there, you was like, I want to do this with my son. I want to do this with my son. You probably like, I wish I could do that with my dad. Can he beat you on the football field?
I mean, shit, he
He
used
got
to.
any speed? He got anything to him?
I played football for like 2 years. He played high school and shit. So
I'm a beast
by the
at
time
football.
I got to high school, I was straight on music. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I got hit by a middle linebacker when I was
Just done.
playing for the Ponies, and I was like, I'm cool on this
And
shit.
now here you are, right in the studio,
Oh,
right,
God.
making hits.
Is anything that, you've been like, I want to do that outside of the music that you've been really like, I want to do this with my father and also with my son. So now you almost kind of like, parents, no matter whether they home or away, they always redo it with their grandkids. It's like, I'm going to redo it with the grandkids. Grandkids get away with everything. So just be prepared.
Oh no, listen,
Yeah.
that's funny you bring that up. My son, like you would think that he been out there, cause my son 3 years old. You would think he been around the whole 3 years, cause he don't want to hang with me at all no more. Like when he around, he wake up 8 in the morning. First thing he say out his mouth is, "Where my grandpa?"
Where my grandpa?
Like it's funny. And then he go walk upstairs. They kick it, and they come down, be on the weights and the pull up bars and all that. Man.
Yeah, he on one. You good?
Yeah.
So what has been the thing that you like, I want to do? Like, as just,
Oh man, we doing it. I mean, everything we doing right now is a manifestation. It's just like a
Man,
dream come true.
Yeah,
It's
like
bridging
this, just
the gap.
sitting here telling our story.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Have you thought about, so Desmond asked Big Hit about like reaching back. What about you? Like, there's something about children of incarcerated parents and, what they go through. And like you said, you state that bond connected. You talked about it in your song with the visitation and stuff like that. And that wears on children, also wears on a parent.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you have a place or like that higher powers, I don't know, your faith is that allowed you to go through some of that so you can help others in that situation?
1,000,000%. And I'm so like, just embedded in this music thing, and I love it so much that I always start with that. You know what I mean? And like I said earlier in the conversation, I see it like, whether it's like my dad is locked up, my dad passed away, me and my dad, we at odds, and just inspiring people through that first. And then, now we here sitting with people like y'all. We plan on going to visit some prisons, maybe performing, playing our music. Like, I want to go to go to a prison with a studio in it.
Right.
Maybe make beats with some of the dudes, you know what I
Right.
mean? Just like any way that I can, inspire. And I want to like, put Big Hit solo album into the prison before it even hit the streets, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that'd be like just something to inspire them. Like, damn, like homie was just in here with us, and like a month and a half later, he got a whole album out produced by a Grammy-winning producer, you know what I mean? Who just so happened to be his son.
I think we have some folks already that we could connect you with. So Desmond, you should tell them. So Desmond, 2 weeks ago, got an honorary doctorate. He's now Dr. Desmond Meade.
That's dope.
And he
Congrats,
went to Bard College, which is based out in New York. And Bard has a Bard Prison Initiative where they give the men that's incarcerated, give them access to go to college. And we heard some powerful stories. Like some folks are coming home, some are not, but some powerful stories of dudes who get in their associates, their bachelors, their masters, and they have a real graduation for them at Eastern Correctional Facility. So we went, and Desmond gave the commencement speech. So they got to see one of their people come back who done went to law. Desmond went to law school, give this. He gave, I say, his mountaintop Martin Luther King speech. I don't know if he ever could replicate it or duplicate it. But the point I'm trying to get, some of them they call them like these senior projects. And they had like the evolution of hip hop and stuff like that. And guys like, when I get home, I want to do this or I want to do that. And so there's a community of folks. And that's why, I love what y'all doing. Hope that you continue to reach back to the people that is there and that are coming home. But there are some like brothers and sisters who are already like, they got to get on this like film, tech, media. That is the new age, AI. And so, like.
It's happening. It's happening. Like even in, we have a good friend of ours, colleague, and friend, Norris Henderson, that came out of Angola in Louisiana. They got radio stations up in there now, to where people are learning how to produce, and I think they're doing some filming as well. And so just to see that, that there's a movement, like, for instance, the federal government just approved, like, for people to get Pell Grants so they can go to college. Sheena just talked about people getting associates and bachelor's degrees while they're incarcerated, people learning all these different skill sets. And so we see that slowly getting inserted in a different prison zone. And so I think that idea of really having this thing being released in prison, I think it's huge. Number one is giving people hope. And I'm big on hope. You know, if you don't know it by now, I'm big on hope. As a person who, I'm standing in front of railroad tracks waiting on the train to come, hooked on drugs and released from prison and homeless, and to, you know, think that my life didn't amount to anything and think that the system was always, you know, not going to let me be successful. I'm lost. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. And so I'm standing there waiting for that train to come. But it never came, right? And to cross those tracks and take, you know, some necessary steps, right? But to get to where, like my wife said, man, I just got an honorary doctorate degree. Now I got 3 of them. I tell folks I got 3 doctorate degrees. I got a doctor of law because I graduated law school in 2014. I got this honorary doctorate degree that I just got in humane arts, and I got the doctor of the streets degree. And so I got 3 doctors, right? So I'm, you know, and to be like now running an organization that just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. I mean, like, how many people you know that got nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, right? Time 100 most influential. I remember when they told me that, I was like, baby, they talking about in the country? She said, nah, baby, in the world. And that just blew my head, right? That these people thought I was one of the 100 most influential people in the world, and I was like, there's more than 100 countries in the world. So I'm skipping over presidents and stuff like that, right? And to get the MacArthur genius. And so my personal journey, right, tells me that in spite of seemingly insurmountable odds and how, you know, the system is designed to beat us down and there's no escaping that, right? That there's always a way, right? Like you said it. You ain't gonna go in there and lay down. I'm gonna fight as long as I got breath. I'm gonna keep fighting.
Do you know
right?
federal law?
You trying to hook me? Well, let me tell you. Here's the thing. Let me tell you something about feds. I've come, you know, I have a couple friends that are real good.
You got some good
federal,
friends.
real, like Reggie Mathis. He is like amazing. One thing I know, you talking about gangsters when you talk about the police, man, the biggest gangsters I know them feds. Because boy, look at when they come and get you. Man, it's rough.
No, I'm saying what you were studying, the federal
It's
law,
rough.
commercial law, what?
Oh, no. Well, in law
First
school,
was
you study
jailhouse
all
law.
of that. First, it was jailhouse law.
Jailhouse
So I got, you know, in 2001, I got sentenced to 15 years for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. And when I went in, you know, I noticed that people weren't working on my appeal. And so I went into the law library and I started working, and I filed a petition for writ of habeas corpus, right, for belated appeal. That was the first legal document that I figured out how to actually draft. And when I submitted it, they granted it. And you know, in prison, you know, you send 100 motions, maybe one might get approved or whatever, you know? And so when that happened, it just rekindled a love that I had for law when I was a little kid growing up, you know, watching Perry Mason and stuff like that. And so I just started diving more into the books, and, you know, fellas from the yard would just start to holler at me, look at this, look at that. And every motion, I could say this, every legal document I filed while I was locked up got a favorable ruling. Every single one. And some impossible cases in which outside lawyers told the family that ain't nothing else you can do.
And what happened with your
No
case?
time.
Tell Big Kid what happened with your case.
And so with my case, so as I'm getting into that, man, I'm getting in my case now, right? And so they went ahead, you know, once they granted my petition for belated appeal, because the window for me to file had elapsed. And so technically I should have been barred from even filing my initial appeal from the conviction. But the courts let me do it. Worked with, they assigned me a appeals lawyer, worked with them, put them grounds together, them counts together, send that in, and next thing you know, they came and said, we're going to reverse and remand. And so, yeah, I gave them back 12 of them years. So by the time I got it done, I was 3 years in, and I ended up, you know, getting out November of 2004.
Yep. God is powerful.
But, yeah.
And the year you got out was, talk about the courtroom.
Oh, So yeah, that was. I'm glad you mentioned that because so I end up, I got out, and I tell folks that I was released from prison, but I still was incarcerated in my head, right? And I still was doing things that was actually going to eventually lead me back to prison. And one of them was drugs. And before I got to get back to prison, I was in front of those railroad tracks. So once I was able to overcome that and start going to school, got into law school, and one of the classes that I had to take towards the end when I was getting ready to graduate was trial prep, trial advocacy, where they teach us how to conduct trials right from start to finish. And I remember the day that we had the trial, the jury was going to be state attorneys and public defenders, real judge in the real courtroom. And I walk in there, right, and they switched the courtrooms around. And so I went to the new courtroom that they switched me to, go through the whole trial, and when they went to closing arguments, the state do closing arguments. So they asked me to move over by the jury to make sure that, if he say something or show them something that they shouldn't do, so I can object. Ain't nobody trying to object, right? Because one of the key parts in closing argument is that they don't want you to read. If you read, they're gonna knock you down some points. So you got to memorize this. So I'm over there, I ain't trying to listen to what the state attorney was saying. I'm trying to memorize make sure I got my lines right for my closing. And so I'm sitting down there just like this, and I looked up, and on the far wall, which was next to where I was when I was defending my client, was a picture of this doggone judge, Manny Crespo. Back in the days, they used to call him Let Him Go Crespo. And it dawned on me, that was the judge of my case. And I was in the same courtroom when I remember his words. He said, Desmond Meade, the people of Dade County has spoken. As a result, I remand you to the custody of Florida Department of Corrections for 15 years. And when he said that, I remember my knees buckled. I was like, I'm not about to let these folks see me cry or break down and none of that. But immediately I was like, damn, my life over. It's a wrap. 15 years. And so I'm there getting ready to do my closing. I look up and see this man and realize I came all the way full circle back in the same courtroom where I thought my life was over. Here I am standing in that courtroom getting ready to argue a case, right, getting ready to be graduating law student. And it felt like the whole building crashed on me. And the only thing I could hear was the judge say, defense, are you ready? And I totally forgot everything. All my lines I told her. And I just said yes, walked up there, couldn't remember nothing. And then I looked at my hands. I remember, okay, that's part of my opening line. And basically it was, if I were to ask you what you were looking at, chances are you would say you're looking at my hand. But the reality is the hands have two sides. And just like this story has two sides. And once I said that, everything came back, banged that thing out, and I left, man. And I told my professor that the situation. He was like, man, we could have rescheduled. I went in my car and started crying. I called my wife, and I told her, man, this is just too surreal, man. That to just come full circle like that.
Life is wild, man.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
They let you be a lawyer?
You know what? Let me tell you. So here's some things, right? That I thought no one could be a lawyer.
And you got to tell Big Hit what you actually the organization has done too.
Yeah. So
what you done?
So no, I want to get to this. Yeah, they let me be a lawyer? I'm not a lawyer right now. I'm not a practicing lawyer. I'm not barred. However, man, there's so many. Because I mean, when I first went to law school, I wasn't going to law school to be a practicing lawyer. I was going to law school because I wanted to know as much about the law as possible because I wanted to help people. That was my calling. And law is so intertwined in every aspect of our lives, whether it's the cell phone you got, the contracts you get into to get your house, a car, or whatever. Law is involved in that. And I wanted to know as much about law as I possibly could, and that was me going to law school. I had no expectation. But guess what? Ready? When I got in, I found out that, man, people with records could be a mile long, can still end up becoming a lawyer. people that may have committed even serious crimes. I got a brother right now that just got through arguing in front of the North Carolina Supreme Court, and might eventually be arguing in front of the U.S. Supreme Court, and so I started discovering there's a lot of people out there that are lawyers, and especially folks that been locked up and been working in them law libraries. Man, they'll run circles around some of these high-priced lawyers out here. And so, yeah, that
You say you
is
got
a
a brother?
pathway. Yeah, a colleague. I call him a brother.
You still cool with him?
Daryl Atkinson, I'm gonna say his name.
Atkinson,
You should meet him. Daryl
Yeah, I
Atkinson.
need to holler at him because one of my partners he a beast.
You ready for this?
They tripping on him for doing motions for people saying he can't practice law because he's not licensed. You know what I'm saying? So
Well, definitely, we could definitely hook that up. But let me tell you something even better. In Minnesota, people who are incarcerated are now getting law degrees, like real life law degrees while they're incarcerated. And so they took folks who was normally working in a law library and worked with a university to actually create a program to where now you can get actually a law degree. And so, yeah, we definitely could look into it. But I'm glad you kind of opened that up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because that was one of those surreal moments, man. And so I have like a couple of audiences too, even with what we do with the podcast, even what we're doing here. One of my audiences are people who've been locked up, people who are still locked up, right? And just showing them that, like, I tell a story that, man, when I was in front of those railroad tracks, if somebody would have came to me and said, Desmond, don't jump in front of that train because, man, you're going to meet the president of the United States, you're going to do this, and Nobel Peace Prize. I thought I would have put him in the chokehold and said, where that good dope you got? Right? Because he had to be smoking some good dope. Take me to that trap right now. Because there's no way in hell you're going to tell me as a drug addict with a record like this that all those things going to happen. But it does. And so I need people to know that in spite of all that stuff, there are opportunities, man. Not saying everybody going to get it, right? But, man, I know there's some people who you left back there that's sharp as hell.
For sure.
Man, if they can get out, man, they could take that hustle that got them in there and flip it in such a way and just become a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire.
And I'll say this, not to put the pressure on you, but a little bit of pressure. The success of you being home also could contribute to the success of them being successful when they come home. You know what I'm saying? Staying out. Because they were like, Big Hit did it. He stayed home and got his shit together. Beyond just, having a son who's making Grammy hits, I could do it. And so folks are watching you, and you already know that because you say you in touch with them. And so continue to be that inspiration through music. Like, that was my first time hearing your music when you played it, and definitely be bumping it again. And I'm going to spread it long and wide. And just know, like, folks been waiting for that. That's the music we've been waiting for. And so I definitely hope that it get pushed out the way it needs to get pushed out because, like, folks need to hear that. And I hope that, however we can help, make sure it's good, like, PR around it because there are targeted audiences that want to hear that. That's the music that the movement
need to hear.
That need to hear. Yeah.
I mean, shit. If it's any avenues y'all see, like, where it's like these people that we got access to should hear this, let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. So one of the things that as we were getting ready for this interview, seeing Instagram posts, right, about the last lunch you had. Right?
Yeah.
And you brought it, if I'm not mistaken, you brought it out with you, right?
Yeah.
And every time you look at that as a reminder,
Yeah.
And when I seen that, right, I started smiling because when I came home, there was some food that we had when I was locked up. And I be trying to cook it for the family sometimes.
Set up. Ain't nobody trying to eat that. Y'all talk Doritos, chumped out, the burritos. We're not even
going with the tuna and the Cheetos crushed up.
He be telling me all type of recipes.
Have you tried it yet?
He ain't made nothing, but he be telling me about it.
Big Hit, I be in there throwing down, making greens, and I be putting my foot in it. He be like, yeah, it's good, it's all right. Let me make a ham and cheese sandwich with some butter on the thing. Baby, this is making setups. The kids was like, what is he doing? Just let him do it, y'all. Just let him do it. Y'all can laugh. It's okay.
What's your drink with the turmeric powder and the ginger and all that?
Oh yeah, I got yeah. Turmeric, cayenne pepper, ginger.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Bubble
you
gut
know
and
what?
all
Let
those.
me tell you,
That's
I
called
never.
bubble guts.
The
That's
only
when you-
thing I do, for real,
Yep.
if I ain't get it from like the canteen, the only thing I drank was buck. You know what I'm saying? And so we specialize in making buck.
For sure.
You know, but I didn't know how to make the other elaborate drinks and all that kind of stuff. Nah, man, just give me some of these fresh fruits that we can get out the doggone mess hall or whatever, right? And get that sugar and that yeast, and we good. We good.
Like
Man.
wine.
Huh?
Yeah.
Oh
Like
yeah.
wine.
What? Man. And then, just trying to come out the mess hall with a hot piece of chicken leg quarter
Don't get him
taped
started.
to your thigh. And it's burning the hell out your leg. You taped it in too quick, you cool it off enough, and
that's
you got to
funny.
wait at the gate and hope that they don't pick because they search you randomly. Man, yeah.
But
And
that talks about the struggles though, and going back to what Big Hit said about the conditions of the prison, like that folks have to steal food or make food and stuff like that, and the families who are the taxpayers who are paying for the prisons and their incarcerated folks. That's how and that's how you feed the folks. And so it's that loss of like humanity and dignity on folks who are incarcerated and trying to like that don't make sense.
Listen, man, he didn't told me some stories that's just like, oh my God, like I wasn't built to live that life. You know what I mean? Like them calling him crazy names and just like, just like really derogatory like language. Just like, yeah, that shit is deep, man.
But Hitboy, your father come home, he telling you like this is all the shit that was fucked up, and that shit hurt. I know that makes you angry and hurt.
For sure.
You got the voice and power and the platform to just make change. One tweet from you saying this is what California prison is doing. At to the governor, at to Department of Corrections. Do you ever think about that power, your advocacy, your voice?
That's something I haven't really like thought about in that perspective. But like, like songs like Police and just like us continuing on that path, like, I'm sure it's gonna get to that point where, I'm gonna have to speak on a certain,
right,
platform or just like, but I don't have no problem with, keeping it 1,000 at all.
Right, because, I think sometimes, I work with, and Desmond, we work with a lot of different influencers on different issues, and some are more like NBA players, NFL players. Some are all out there, and then some of them like they out there because just like you, like my mom, my dad, my loved one. I was just with John last time I was in LA a month ago. I was with John Legend, and John Legend, we've been working with him since 2017. He started really talking about these issues a little bit more about his mom dealing with going to jail, and so he's big on advocating and like the power of the platform. You don't gotta necessarily be out there like we are. We got advocates that could do that, but you got that reach in your music, in your social media, and I just want y'all not to lose that because again, like that was really, really powerful, and it came at the moment and a time that the country and the people who are tired, who's been fighting a good fight, like we've been fighting these fights and trying to make sure that we could bring like dignity and change these laws and conditions for folks. And sometimes folks feel like people are not hearing us, or even like influencers. We done ran trying to get up with influencers like, listen, the people that are listening to your music are the people we're trying to help. Can you just say this? And y'all got good management and folks who like, they understand the importance. And so, but there's some who don't. And so it is a blessing for this platform. I keep saying that because I really mean it. And so allowing God or higher power, however you like see fit to use you to get that word out there, and it's not in vain. And so turning your pain into purpose, and the purpose is here now. And so make sure that music is hitting to those right folks and audiences.
And I think it's you guys have started this, whether it was intentional or not. And I think you mentioned just the response that you was getting on IG.
Yeah.
It's about how people are feeling about their relationships with their fathers, and part of this thing, even if you're talking about prison, is about really seeing the humanity in each other, right? Because how society like to label us felons and criminals and predators and all kinds of negative things that dehumanizes us as a people. And to see that, how you get people to remember that there are people who are incarcerated who's someone's mother, someone's father, right? And even though they may have made a mistake, that don't make them any less human. That don't make them any less of a father, right? They don't make them any less of a man or whatever. And that we got to be able to love people through that, right? And so I think you've already started, whether you meant it or not, is really getting people to think about, people who are incarcerated and that they're not just a bunch of animals
Lost
that are
cause,
locked
yeah,
up,
for
you
sure.
know?
Yeah, nah.
No, man,
definitely.
it's-
Like, people be having talent, man. Like, I didn't even know, like, my dad, like, I always wanted to draw, never could draw. He be drawing and shit, you know what I mean? Like, he a real artist, like, from the music to coming up with logos and just ideas and shit. Like, it's like I really got a big piece of my artistry from him without even really knowing it, you know what I mean? Like, cause all I heard was street stories and just all the shit he was doing out, you know what I mean? Just moving around. But it's like just to really like be older and know how to, decipher things and just understand it on my own terms. It's like, damn, like he really an artist, you know what I mean?
Right. I want, as we I think we're rapping, and I hope we able to go out with one of your hits again, Big Kid, because that, like, I'm bopping to it, but I want to challenge you. Desmond didn't really tell you too much about his story, but I will tell you this.
Well, I told a lot. What you
Well,
talking
the
about?
movement part, one part about it
I know we
was,
talked on FaceTime too. You was
Yeah.
telling us a lot.
but he led the effort to restore voting rights to 1.4 million people who had felony convictions to give them the right to vote.
That's it.
One ahead, like 1.4 million people. And I believe, we got to check, but in the law here, you now back home, you got a powerful song, you got powerful meaning and purpose behind it, and you want to put that power to like manifestation. And the way you could do that is making sure that your voice is heard in the voting box. So like you said, you could elect the people that are going to do the right things for the issues you care about. And so
It's simple mathematics, right? Y'all good with math, right? Listen, I don't care what community you go to, right? What you're going to find is that people and their family members who've been impacted by the criminal justice system, as a collective, have more than enough power to change the conditions in their communities. So in Florida, we restored voting rights to, say, 1.4 million people. In politics, Florida is an important state, right? And so up until the last election, you could have, this thing that anybody wanted to get into the White House had to win Florida. Florida was a key state. And what we found was that people who were winning Florida were winning by 100,000 votes. Now, if the key to win Florida, or the key to get to the White House back then, was to win Florida, and the difference between winner and loser was 100,000 votes, and then you turn around and restore voting rights to 1.4 million homies and homiettes, right? Then who got juice? Just look at the numbers, right? And that's just people who have felony convictions, not even taking account their family members and, who can be registered to vote and can vote. And so it got to a point where there were people who were running for wanting to be president of the United States. They were blowing up our phones, trying to have a conversation with formerly incarcerated people. You talking about people who wanted to be president of the United States, wanting to pick up a phone and talk to people like Desmond or Norris or Daryl or Susan or Dorsey in California, And so there is a power there in the vote. And so my son is a huge fan. And he know you like these
buckets.
Yeah,
That's
these buckets.
I was about to ask, well, who Kango is that?
Yeah.
it's yours.
And it has,
That's hard.
I don't know who gets what, the black or the white.
Let me see this white one, man. This shit hard.
But
Look,
it's got our slogan. In your song, you also talk about Pharaoh letting the people go. And that was one of the things that Moses had told Pharaoh, let my people go. And so we got this thing, let my people vote. Get my people out of bondage. And that there's power in our vote. And we could actually use our vote to break some of these chains that we've been in for like decades and generations and stuff like that. We've seen it actually happen. And we know that there's a lot more to go, but wanted to gift that to you all.
For you, what I mean? Make all that happen after going all through what you had to go through.
And then we got We got these Let My People Vote shirts,
Okay.
right? And then we also got
They just butchered the whole swag.
yeah,
at this point.
so
You can just give it all to them. Like they ain't masking up right now.
how if you want to throw a mask up, you know, I don't know if y'all still wearing masks out here in Cali, you know, but you can throw the mask up and that could be like
that. I might
you know.
You use it for it. So they go right with your sneaks. They go right with your kicks.
Yeah.
No, we don't got no missions right now, big kid. We don't got no missions right now. But we want to just say we appreciate you. We appreciate y'all taking the time and looking forward to having a partnership. You know.
Definitely.
Yep. See, that's it right there. That's that look right there.
Yeah.
That's that look.
No.
That's that look right there. And so that was one of the things when we first had got those made. We was like, you know, because my organization, Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, is we have over like 24,000 members in the state of Florida, and man, we got like 17 chapters out there, and the members are people who have been either caught up in the criminal justice system or family members who have loved ones who've been caught up. Right. That make up our membership base. So when COVID hit and we getting these masks, you know, some of our folks was getting flashbacks. Right? So it was like, man, we could not walk around with this and then calling the police.
Yeah. So we're gonna make sure we chop it up, and we want to thank you. And Desmond also got his book, and you know, take time to just when you have time,
for sure.
big hit, read it. Matter of fact, you know, you got some homies you want us to send some to.
This is you, hitboy. This is yours.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and we go work together. Make sure we go build together. Cause we just starting.
And I appreciate the love, man. You know, I'm just stuck on that. You know, through thick and thin. Yeah. You know, you said that bond wasn't broken. You know, even though prison tried to break the bond by blocking mail and doing all this other kind of stuff, not letting him out when he's supposed to be let out, that bond never broke. And it might have been, I know it might have been some days of disappointments or whatever, but that was never able to break the love that you have for your dad, man. And I think love is an important thing that we should embrace. And I really, it touched me, you know.
That's what's up.
And I want to thank y'all. Thank y'all both for taking this time.
Appreciate y'all, man, coming out here and
For
locking
real.
in with us.
Much love,
Show
man.
for show.
Yeah.
Definitely appreciate
Now you ain't shy no more.
Yeah,
He was scared to say what they earlier.
You know, he good now. He got his mask. He good.
What you been doing your whole life? Shining. Now what we doing in this life? Climbing, busting down these diamonds.